Okay, here it is. We are ready to go. We tried this once before. It didn't work. I think what happened was Jackie who's away on vacation. She actually deleted the last week's link. So when we try to get on it, it didn't actually go, although it may. People may have caught us saying goofy things, being unaware that we were on.
We're on now.
So we're definitely on now. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Good to know we're not just yelling into the void, which is
to the cloud.
I feel like sometimes. So good morning. How is everyone doing after the holiday?
We're doing good.
Okay. We're
surviving.
I want to talk about like some post-holiday blues. I want to talk about eggs. This was Jackie. Jackie, she's being very topical. So she set this up last week for us to talk about the great egg controversy. Obviously, eggs have something to do with Easter. What, I don't know. Does anyone know what eggs have to do with Easter?
Nope. Egg hunt?
No. Yeah.
No. I don't know why the Easter Bunny has come around or why all that's come around. However, they are nice, fun traditions.
They are nice, fun traditions. You know, things at this time of year, be it Passover or Easter, have to do with renewal.
Yeah.
And so eggs have a lot to do with renewal, right? Eggs obviously precede renewed life. And so that, I think, is part of the idea there. I don't know about the coloring it. Did you guys color eggs with your children?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Marissa tie-dyed her whole shirt pink.
On purpose?
No.
Of course not. Right. Children will do that. Mischievous children would do that.
Yeah.
So here's the deal with eggs, right? Eggs is a very controversial subject. Some people say don't eat them. It's going to cause you heart disease. You're going to croak from a heart attack pretty much immediately after you have your omelet. And then there are other people who say they are a superfood. They are one of the healthiest foods you can eat, and you should eat eggs daily. Now, just to get a sense of what you guys are aware of, what do you hear from your doctors or from school nutritionists, or what are you just hearing out there in the ether?
So for a long time, you heard avoid the yolk, avoid the yolk, avoid the yolk, and, eat the egg whites. But then now you're hearing don't avoid the yolk. The yolk is where all of the good nutrients are coming from. So I, for a long time, avoided the yolk, but now I've brought back the yolk.
Got it. Okay, so you were an yolk avoider, and now you love the yolk.
Yeah. Yep.
It's no joke. Corinne loves the yolk.
Yep.
Okay. And what about you, Tricia? What have you heard, and what do you do?
I guess just I always, I ate egg whites for a long time because I thought that's what you were supposed to do to, bad for your heart and cholesterol if you eat the whole egg. But I do eat, I enjoy eggs. I could eat them probably every day. So for me, I now eat the yolk also.
Well, where did you hear it from that it was bad for you, that it was going to cause heart disease?
I don't know. I don't think any one place in particular. It was, just maybe said somewhere and then just stuck with me just to eat the egg whites. And then that was really it. Nobody ever said anything.
I think it's more of like a media type of thing where, there's always fads with diets and there's always fads with stuff. And I think it was more one of those like, okay, now time to tell people to watch their cholesterol, don't eat eggs. But
yeah, this is one of the problems. So there's a couple of things going on these days, and it is very topical because everything's a controversy now. Right? I feel like if we rewind the clock going back, 20 years, there were certain things that were known, or at least we thought they were known. This is good, this is bad. And now it's not like that. I mean, now any subject, the most innocuous ones that you would think, like, everyone used to agree that rainbows were good, but now I'm sure there's a controversy about rainbows and puppy dogs.
Oh, there's a controversy about rainbows.
There is a controversy about rainbows. Well, I don't mean that controversy. I meant just the rainbows themselves. Like what we used to think was great. I mean, we heard the stories about the the Great Flood, and then there was a rainbow, and we look at rainbows and they're beautiful, and apparently there are pots of gold at the end of them. But now somehow I'm sure they cause cancer.
I'm sure.
And it's probably a plot that someone has created to get us all. So that's how.
But look about what's going on right now with eggs. Like circling back to eggs, and the controversy with eggs, and there's the fact that there's the flu, right? Like what is it? The bird flu that's going on, and now the eggs. There's an egg shortage, and the price of eggs is way up. Like you used to pay $2, now you're paying $4 for eggs.
Right. So there's just always a controversy these days. So that's one of the problems. Here's the other problem: is that for some reason people tend to forget about nuance. People just want very quick answers, and everything is a label. Like, I mean, nobody's looking into where the source of their information comes from. Nobody's delving. They just hear something in the ether somewhere, and then that becomes their truth. And yes, life is less confusing that way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we get the best data that way.
Right.
And I think that's what eggs are suffering from. They are suffering in the same way that, sometimes a left fielder is labeled as all field no hit. And that sticks with him for the rest of his career, even if he hits 320 with 30 home runs. It's just these simple labels, and we have to get beyond this. So here's the deal with eggs, right? You told me that you've heard from some source that shall remain unidentified that eggs cause heart disease.
Right.
Why do eggs cause heart disease?
They say because of the yolk and the fact that there's a lot of cholesterol within the yolk.
There's a lot of cholesterol in the yolk, right? So somewhere along the line, cholesterol became the bad guy. Right? We decided that cholesterol was what caused heart disease. And there's two theories, and they're still, to this day, these theories are competing. The one is that heart disease is caused by an overabundance of cholesterol. You have too much, it clogs your arteries.
Right.
The other is that the cholesterol itself is healing and repairing, and that the actual problem is the foods we eat cause inflammation, and then the cholesterol kind of shows up on the scene to help with that. But really, it's the inflammation that we need to avoid. That's the problem. That's what's damaging our arteries.
I think it's damaging our bodies in general, right?
In general, right? But specifically when we talk in the context of heart disease, that's what tends to damage the arteries, right? And then there's different kinds of cholesterol, and we hear all these things. So just a little bit about cholesterol. Corinne, just let me know if I'm boring you. Just a little bit about cholesterol.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired today.
I want everyone to understand something. Our bodies need cholesterol, right? Have you ever heard that cholesterol does good things?
No.
Right? Because of the label.
Right.
You
always think cholesterol does everything bad.
Yeah, and it's not like that. I mean, it's kind of like your mother-in-laws. They're probably evil to some degree, but then they'll turn around and they'll do something kind, and they're probably good to your children. Trish, I don't know why you're laughing, but she will never find out about this video. Don't worry. All right. So it's more like that. There's some subtlety involved, and we have to understand it. First of all, every cell in the body utilizes cholesterol. Cholesterol goes into the cell membranes. It's part of the cell membrane. Super important, right? It allows nutrients to pass through the cells. Right. I mean, we can't live without that. Cholesterol is the base of our hormones, specifically our sex hormones. All right, guys, you like testosterone? Guess what it's made from? Okay.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Okay. The brain, it's important for the brain. So it's not just as simple as, is that good and evil kind of narrative that we hear all the time. Now, here's another thing. The cholesterol that we get from food, you'll hear it called exogenous sometimes, right? From outside. That's not the problem. If there is a problem with cholesterol, it's the fact that 80% of it is made in the body. So the chances of somebody eating too much cholesterol and that causing problems are really small.
Okay? That's interesting.
Yeah. There's always more to the situation.
Yeah.
So cholesterol has been blamed when it comes to eggs. You don't want to have the egg yolks because that's where the cholesterol is, and that is going to clog your arteries, and you are going to die a horrible, painful death in front of your loved ones.
So let me ask you this, Dr. R. Do you eat the yolk?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The yolk is where the good stuff is. So let's talk about the yolk. First of all, we've all heard that the whites are good because of the protein content, right? And most of us know that protein goes into building tissue. We think in terms of muscle, but it builds other kinds of tissue as well, skin and what have you. And it does, and proteins do a lot of other important things. We do need protein.
Right.
We're told that egg whites are a great source of protein, and they are, but it turns out by percentage, there's more protein in the yolks than there is in the whites. Almost nobody knows that. I didn't know that until very recently. Okay. The yellow is really the egg, right? The whites are kind of like what the eggs use for nutrition.
Right.
Okay. What the yolk uses for nutrition. So in the yolk, it's loaded with great vitamins. It's loaded with vitamin A, for example, very good for the eyes.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, absolutely necessary to modulate inflammation, our immune system. Vitamin D is super important. Most of us have heard this, right? Okay. So that's inside, and it's one of the few good sources of vitamin D from actual foods. But most foods don't have a lot of vitamin D, so eggs does. Not a lot, but it has some. Okay. It's loaded with vitamin E, very heart protective. Vitamin K works with vitamin D. I mean, it's loaded with it. Those are just the vitamins. Then there's a ton of other nutrients that actually, some of them break down cholesterol.
Really?
Some of them they contribute to mitigating cholesterol.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I never knew any of this.
Yes. So there is a lot to this whole egg story that we don't hear about all the time.
Right.
Meanwhile, I thought the conversation was going to be what came first, the chicken or the egg?
What did come first?
Who knows?
Not me.
Are you sure?
Were you hoping that's what the conversation would be?
Yeah, absolutely I was.
Well, we want to clear this up, and then we'll talk about some more Easter and post-holiday things, which I think is important because a lot of people have trouble kind of getting back on track if they get off track, right?
Absolutely.
Which is usually done. Yeah. All right. So the question is, should we then eat eggs or not? What do we think?
We should eat. Yes, we should eat eggs.
In my opinion, we should. Now, we shouldn't just eat any eggs, right? So you know how when you get eggs these days, you go into a supermarket, you have all kinds of choices, right? There's the letter grade. There is the what else is it? Is
free range,
organic?
Yeah, the free range, the organic, the brown.
Right? Okay, good. Here's what we want. We want pasture raised and we want organic. Both.
Do they have to be brown eggs too?
No, not that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware, but the problem is that if it's pasture raised, that is a chicken acting like what a chicken's supposed to act like. And we're talking about chicken eggs, right? I mean, I assume it's the same for duck eggs, goose eggs, what have you. So that means they're eating out in the pasture. Free range doesn't mean necessarily that they're eating out in the pasture. It just means that they have some room to be free, like in a confined pen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we want that. We want them to be able to eat what they would find out in the pasture, as opposed to, vegetarian feeds. They tell you about vegetarian feeds, right? You've heard that?
No, I've heard of that.
Okay. All right. So generally that means like they're eating soy, they're eating corn, they're eating like these, genetically modified foods, right?
Yeah, it's nothing good.
It's not so good.
And then that's how you get the chicken so fat. And that's why they're not healthy. And then the chickens are like right next to one another in the coop. So you say they're free range, like you said, but chicken A is here and chicken B is here and chicken C and and nobody's moving. So it's not really free range.
Corinne, it's actually worse than that. Now I'll tell you, but you might be grossed out.
Yeah, no, that sounds gross.
So they're on top of each other in the coop.
It's not right. It's
so what do you think happens when they're piled on top of each other?
That's why they're all sick.
Yeah. So they're pooping on each other and they're peeing on each other, and right. So it's not terrible for the animals, right? It's bad for us,
right?
So that's why we want pasture raised and organic. That's going to allow the animal to live like it's supposed to be, which will benefit us, which will allow us the best eggs. These eggs will be full of omega-3 fatty acids, very anti-inflammatory. Right? We've heard of omega-3, right? They put them sometimes on the eggs, right?
So, doctor, are you setting up a kitchen? Are you setting up a coop in your house so that we all get free-range eggs?
I know a dude who does that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a coop guy. I'm not a country guy. My interesting story, Trish, like you mentioned that you were raised in Brooklyn. My great-grandfather, his job was he killed chickens back in like the 1930s or what have you in Brooklyn. So he actually, there were chicken farms in Brooklyn.
Hack them up.
Yeah, and yes, that's what he would do. He would say a prayer. He would do kosher style, right? So he'd say a prayer and then just chop their heads off, and then the bodies would run around a little bit for a little while, and ultimately, So this.
It's gross when you get chicken and then it has a feather on it. You're like, oh.
I've never seen that actually.
You've never seen it where it's like not like there's stores by us locally. Like if you buy the chicken, sometimes you see a feather. I'm like, oh.
Are you going to stores that are actually where you can see the chickens live?
No.
Oh, okay. No. That's a thing. There are still chicken farms.
If I had to go to a chicken farm, I would never eat chicken. Like
you would have to point out the one you wanted. So my aunt and uncle, they do this on Long Island. They go to this chicken farm. Can I tell you something? The chicken is much, much better.
Oh, I'm sure.
It tastes delicious, but I'm not. No, I can't do that. No. I would become a vegan if I had to see.
I understand. As a former vegan myself, I completely understand what you're saying. But that's what it is. It's coming. The packaged breast that you're eating. What?
Corinne's fine with it wrapped in plastic.
Exactly. Wrapped in plastic is good. I don't need the visualization of the chicken and cutting out the breast of the chicken and
Corinne thinks that's how God created it.
The thighs of the chicken.
It just showed up like this.
Yeah, Corinne, do you imagine that God created it in the packaging with the plastic on it?
No, I just don't think about it. It's like saying I think about the fact that like you killed a cow and like when you're eating the ribeye of the cow, you're eating the rib of a cow. Like I don't think about that. I just think about the fact that I'm eating meat.
That's right. Meat is actually muscle.
Right.
Yeah, right. Meat is
He doesn't want to see it like put back onto the cow.
No, or to the chicken.
Like,
Come on, Trish, do you?
That doesn't faze me. Sorry.
Well, we're getting into a different conversation. Like that, this is a reason that a lot of people become vegetarians because they suddenly have an awareness that what they're eating, had a life, and they have different feelings about it, right? So we do know where these things come from. We're not naive. We do understand this, right? But getting back to eggs and protein. So eggs are considered a perfect source of protein, right? More so than muscle from animals, more so than meats, because an egg, if you use like half of the egg, half of that protein to build tissue, you're only able to utilize about a third of it from meats. Okay, so it's a much more efficient kind of a protein. So just the benefit of eggs just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
As far as the controversy. Now, there are people who will argue this. They will point to studies, and you know how studies are. Studies are just like opinions, right? You could always find one that backs up what you say. My understanding is that the studies that have been done that claim that eggs were bad for you they're pretty flawed studies. They're basically like questionnaires, which is not a high echelon of study.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's all I'm going to say for eggs for today. I don't know what people would do for brunch if it wasn't for eggs, personally. That is the perfect brunch food as well. But let's get back to the holidays, though. How did you guys do, and how are you feeling today? Faces. We're making faces.
Not good.
Not good, huh?
Yeah.
Not good.
The holidays are so challenging.
Did not do well.
Yeah.
And I really set intentions to do well because I have a goal. I have some big events coming up, but it just, I had a little bit here and then a little bit here. And then before you know, it was midnight and I went to bed with a full belly and did not sleep. Like,
it's almost impossible. It can be done and it has been done. But for some people, that kind of a moderation approach can be impossible.
It was not good.
Because once you pass a certain point, then the attitude is like, well, I'll start again tomorrow. Today's shot.
Yeah.
Therefore, I might as well do such and such and such and such, right? It's so easy to get in that. It's so hard to not. And I guess that's fine as long as we are able to then get back. This ability to get back is so, so important. So what's the key for you, Corinne, to get back on track?
Well, for me, I cannot have junk in my house. If I have junk in my house, I find that I'm actually the biggest offender. Like my kids tend not to eat it as much as I do. So I told my husband, I'm like, no junk in the house. I'm like, it's bathing suit season coming up. Like that's it, done. So for us,
in other words, it's bad enough when you go off the rails to some degree during a holiday, but then if you come home and there's more of that, then it's going to be just that much harder for you to get back to where you want to be.
Absolutely. You have to kind of set the intentions or the mindset that like, like, okay, you went off the rails today, or like even last week in general, like the kids had spring break and, we're limited now as to the bad stuff that we can eat, but we still, ate worse than we normally would. And my stomach was not feeling it. I'm like, this is not good. And so to me, it's more a matter of like, I don't like to feel uncomfortable. And I said, that's it, I'm done. Like I need to, get back to a strict eating habit and, look better for myself and do it for myself.
Got it.
Like Trish said, I have a lot of big events coming up.
Yes. Well, I want to tell everyone something that I know works. And we have a lot of evidence on this because lately I've had this conversation with several people. I had 2 people recently who came in where they were just having trouble getting going. They were doing that thing where they go to sleep with good intentions every night. They wake up in the morning, and then before they know it, by lunch, they're having something they're not supposed to.
Guilty as charged.
Okay. So the deal I made with both of these people was give me 5 days. 5 days, And after that, I will personally drive you to the pizza place or the ice cream parlor or whatever it is that you want. Just 5 perfect days. Okay. The idea is that we can only, and you'll part of the pun, we can only eat such big chunks. It's so much easier to take things in small chunks. So 5 days, and now that's an arbitrary number. Could be 3 days, it could be, you know, a week, what have you. But you have to, if you do that and look no further, that's a good way to start. Here's the other thing for the person who, again, has the good intention, and this could go on for months and years, right? Every day I'm starting, and then every day not starting. And the level of personal angst and disappointment that develops is off the charts. I mean, it's exhausting for people, right? Discouraging, exhausting. It's like being a baseball team and gearing yourself up to win every day and losing every day, right? So for the person who is starting every day and then stopping later that day, right? Or maybe they get through one day or what have you. The attitude, the mindset is for whatever chunk of time you think of. And preparation, I think, is key. But mindset-wise is, I will die before I will cheat within those few days.
You know, it's
that hump has to be overcome. That hump can feel like a mountain. It's not. It's a hump, but it can feel like a mountain, and that's the only attitude. That period, no matter what, you're doing it.
The biggest thing that works for me, Dr. Art, which is really very truthful, is when I set my mind to it, our coaching support is really what helps me the most, because I don't want to text somebody my weight and show them that I've gone up. I always want to text them that, you know, I'm doing the right thing. So to me, our coaching is the most important part of our program. And that's my opinion. You know what I mean? Obviously, eating right and having the correct supplements works as well. But the support that we give each other is no greater.
Well,
which is why you're saying 5 perfect days, because they'll text you for 5 days and you'll see their weight goes down, and then they're encouraged to want to keep on going.
Generally, that's what happens. Now, again, it doesn't have to, because I don't want people thinking beyond that, right? But for those 5 days, yeah. So it's a very interesting kind of dynamic that takes place when there's more than one person doing something. There's something about us that we need outside. And we can do a lot on our own, but to have someone who's not us to bounce things off of, to be accountable to, there's just a different change in dynamic. It's the difference between a team and not a team. And that team approach is so important. There's so much power in team. Trish, you've seen that in action, have you not?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely have.
Give me an example of that.
Would you say, like, when you have somebody that's kind of doing it with you, like giving you that confidence, I feel like kind of elevates you to keep going and do the right thing, you know, especially, you know, for instance, I was, you know, on our meeting this morning, I was saying how we had, you know, some really lovely people come in this week, and it was so nice to see, like, 2 women came in, friends, and you could see how positive they were with each other. They were super, like, encouraging to want, hugging and, you know, getting, you know, their feelings and how happy they were, and they were doing this together. And I feel like something like that is really encouraging to take you up to the next level.
Absolutely. If you have the right partner. Now that could go the other way too.
Right, because it could be bad too.
Yeah, because it could,
like, let's eat this together.
Yep.
But these two, I feel like we're gonna be, they have their mindset and they have some goals too, and they were so positive with each other that I feel like they would be the type to call each other out and be like, you know, she ate XYZ, she didn't do it right this week, you know, like, I feel like the 2 of them will be that, and like, I see them doing well just because they have the support with each other.
I think they're going to do fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I can say first names. There's Kristen and Maria.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to do fantastically well. And yeah,
So cool.
the effect when there's more than one person, you would expect like an additive effect, right? This person plus that person, but it's not. It's like a multiplicative effect. I mean, it's exponential.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the energy going in the right direction together. But we are built to, I don't want to say to be reliant on other people, but to work with and to play with other people and to make each other better.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why the pandemic has been so hard. That, you know, when there was less contact with people who are outside of your inner circle.
Yeah.
We need that. It really is helpful. So I would encourage everyone, get an accountability partner if that's what you need, right? Obviously, if you're on a program, you have us. Don't take us for granted. It's super important. Don't worry about disappointing us if you mess up. Communication, as much as we want to avoid it, especially males sometimes. I don't know if you guys have noticed that sometimes husbands, males don't communicate in the same way or as much, but it's vitally important in my
I
estimation,
completely
right?
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about that? What is the power of communication that makes things so much better and easier, that makes accomplishments so much more likely?
I feel like you're confronting it. So for
Mm,
me, it's about confrontation and like confronting it and admitting out loud, like, okay, this is what my weight was today, and tomorrow I'm gonna make it better, you know, and not stepping on the scale or not texting my weight to somebody, for example, allows me to hide behind it. Whereas when I am, you know, on program and I am texting somebody, like it allows me to feel positive and feel like I can do it.
right.
Yeah.
So can I tell you that's a great point? We're going to actually end off on that point. This subject of confronting is such an important, huge subject. It is a conversation I have with people. There is a therapeutic effect in confronting things. Often a person will come in, they don't want to get on the scale. But when they do, they are able to breathe easier because that mystery that we've created in our mind is so much worse than the actual number. As bad as that is to see, right? It's hard to see the numbers, but there's something to be said for knowing it. I told this one lady who I challenged with 5 days that this is an exercise in confront and control, and you can only control what you can confront.
Right.
And she really took that to heart. She wrote it down. And now she parrots it back to me: confront and control, right? So that's a great place to end off. Is there anything that anyone else wants to say before we go?
Have a great week. You
This
know,
was an excellent conversation.
Oh, God.
aren't you cute?
You know, it's bad enough when I do it, Trisha, but I expect more from you.
I've been holding on to it the whole time.
Okay. I understand why. Yes. Okay. Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye.